The Oilers have a golden opportunity, according to a Daily Faceoff article that listed them as a true cup contender in the National Hockey League, which I think, exciting news, especially coming off of last year. But to see the Oilers in that same spot again is tremendous. All that and more today on Oilers Digest, as we also break down the month of January for the Edmonton Oilers, coming off of a pretty successful December. But before we get into that, make sure you subscribe here to Oilers Digest, as yes, we are 72 subscribers away from 2,500. Hopefully that's our big first milestone of the year, and we can continue to climb that throughout 2025. I hope you're enjoying the start of 2025 so far. Of course, the Oilers have yet to play their first game of 2025, but that's coming tomorrow against the Anaheim Ducks, and still lots of hockey to be played. Team Canada tonight in the quarterfinals of the World Junior Hockey Championships against Czechia tonight, so again, should be exciting. Hopefully, Bo Akey plays a little more over 2 minutes, but that remains to be seen. But contenders or pretenders, yes, the Edmonton Oilers were listed in a cup contending article written by Scott Maxwell of Daily Faceoff, and he did list the Oilers. He also listed them last year. The Oilers made last year's edition of the list both times, and it very nearly paid off with the run to the Stanley Cup final. The fact that they were one of the best teams in the league at both ends of the ice, along with boasting the talents of Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Evan Bouchard, Zach Hyman, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, meant it was no surprise that Edmonton fell just one win short of a championship. I know we have to relive that horror time in and time out, especially the one Amazon broadcast between the intermissions played nothing but the Florida Panthers and parading the Stanley Cup around. But there's a bit of a routine here when it comes to the cup contending list here for Daily Faceoff, and the team has to be top 10 in both expected goals for per 60 per a single game in both categories, both goals for and goals against. And the Oilers did crack the top 10 of both lists there, 7th in 5-on-5 expected goals for per 60 at 2.66, and tied for 9th at 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60. So again, pretty fantastic at both ends of the ice, considering the once again horrible start here for the Edmonton Oilers to start off the 2024-25 season. Of course, October was a month to forget, but November and December, of course, fantastic statistically for the Oilers. And of course, however, the Oilers have seen a slight step back from last year. They're about the same standing in the league in terms of their 5-on-5 expected goals against per 60, where they're tied for 8th last year versus tied for 9th this year. But they generated chances at a much lower rate, first last year versus 7th this year. A big reason for that was the changes they made in the offseason, which sacrificed a lot of their foot speed. Most notably, guys like Warren Fogle and Dylan Holloway, losing them in favor for guys like and Adam Henrique, and made them a lot older team as a result. I put a lot of their offensive creation on the hands of their stars, and while they're more than capable of it, they'll need some help if they want to be a cup contender, compared to the other teams in this article. Of course, 3 other teams. The Los Angeles Kings were the only other Western Conference team to crack the list. Meanwhile, the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils over on the Eastern Conference side. So all 4 teams, nothing short of amazing of all 4 teams. Even the LA Kings on that Saturday afternoon game, it felt like a playoff game for the Edmonton Oilers. Of course, the Kings and Oilers, they've seen their fair share of playoff hockey against each other, and we might even see it again this April. But when it comes to the Oilers and trying to make the team better, of course, not a lot of cap space when it comes to the trade deadline, a little under $4 million there, but they still have that LTIR pool with Evander Kane. But it also remains to be seen when he returns to the Oilers lineup, because of course, if he does return to the lineup, the Oilers will have to make way, find a way to free up that $5.12 million. But there's a bit of a wild card here when it comes to the Oilers and a potential acquisition, and it comes in the form of Jonathan Toews. When it comes to Stan Bowman and his ability to make sure what the Oilers need, he says we'll probably start to narrow that focus maybe around Christmas. From games 40 to 50 is when we're going to really try to decide which type of player would be the best one to add. If we can add a defenseman, we'd like to. He also mentioned that goaltending had been inconsistent, but stopped short of calling it a need. But I mentioned Jonathan Toews earlier on, and he had an interview with GQ earlier this week, saying there's a part of me that really doesn't feel like my career is over yet. And of course, he's 36 years old, hasn't played in almost 2 years since the 2022-23 season with the Chicago Blackhawks, but he's got that familiarity with Stan Bowman. Of course, Stan Bowman and Jonathan Toews with the Chicago Blackhawks organization, and the Oilers are no stranger to, going with those connections. Of course, Kris Knoblauch, Connor Brown with Connor McDavid, so this would be yet another one to sort of bolster the Oilers' bottom six there. Of course, they would just make it even more older and slower, but Jonathan Toews, he has that cup pedigree, and he's willing to say he's willing to lay it all out on the ice one last time in a cup run, and I think that would be something to see, much akin to a Shea Weber with the 2021 Montreal Canadiens. His two-way game would bolster the Oilers' bottom six if they're too stubborn to call a guy like Noah Phillip up, which I think he deserves a shot at this point. But again, I mean, Jonathan Toews hasn't played in 2 years, but still put up 31 points in 53 games on a Chicago Blackhawks team that wasn't very good. But I mean, later heading into the trade deadline, that is March 7th, we still have quite a lot of time for the Edmonton Oilers and Stan Bowman to sort of figure out what exactly the Oilers need at this point. I mean, they need a whole slew of things at this point, like a right shot defenseman on the right side, maybe a goalie if, Stuart Skinner, decides to come crashing back down to earth after a fantastic December, or even, again, just bottom six, because I think the top six right now looks as good as it is. But when it comes to a look ahead into January, before we take a look ahead, we will take a look into the month of December. Statistically and historically for the Edmonton Oilers, a very good month. Leon Draisaitl was named the NHL's second star of the month for the month of December, scored 10 goals and 14 assists in 13 games to lead Edmonton to a 9-3-1 record. So, again, Leon Draisaitl, Edmonton's best player so far. Bit of a hot take, bit of a cold take. Let me know down in the comments what you've been thinking of Leon Draisaitl's play so far this season. And also, when it comes to Draisaitl and McDavid, both climbing up the ranks for the Oilers' all-time points record. Connor McDavid passing Mark Messier with his 1,036 point, and on his way to surpassing Jari Kurri for second spot there at 1043. And Leon Draisaitl currently tied with Glenn Anderson for 906 points. So next game we might see, Leon Draisaitl take that fifth spot all on his lonesome. And just taking a look into the Oilers' month of January there, 14 games, 7 on the road, 7 at home, and they begin against the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow night, and then they go on the road for 4 against Seattle, Boston, Pittsburgh, and Chicago, back home for 1 against the Los Angeles Kings, and then back on to the road for 3 against Minnesota, Colorado, and Vancouver, back home against Washington and Vancouver yet again, and then they close it out against Buffalo, Seattle, and Detroit. So some easy matchups, some not so easy matchups there. So again, January, an action-packed month for the Edmonton Oilers before February, and that sort of mini all-star break for the Four Nations face-off, and then the schedule will really kick into high gear as we get closer and closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And when it comes to the lineup here for Kris Knoblauch in the Oilers, the lines this morning at the morning practice will look a lot similar to, the second period lines that you saw last game against the Utah Hockey Club. As you can see there, the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, and Connor Brown, and so on and so forth here. But this morning from Tony Brar of Oilers TV, you have the top six, which remains the same. Nugent, McDavid, Brown, Podkolzin, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson. And then the third line, some see it as a demotion for Zach Hyman. I see it as, making the Oilers deeper throughout the lineup and sort of drive his own line here with Matthias Janmark and Kasperi Kapanen. 2 speedy players with a workhorse in Zach Hyman. Who knows? It could be, fantastic for all we know. And a very slow fourth line here with Jeff Skinner sort of shoehorned into that fourth line spot. Adam Henrique and Corey Perry with Derek Ryan as the extra forward. And the defense remains untouched. Matisse Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, Troy Stetcher, and then Brett Kulak and Ty Emberson. And so we go into tomorrow's game against the Anaheim Ducks with, sort of an excitement for the new year with the Oilers. Of course, at this point last year, the Oilers were just about to begin or even, continue their 16-game win streak. I don't think we'll see anything like that in the new year. But the team, going into the new year, Last year, I know everyone sort of had their hopes dashed by the end of November, but the Oilers, remember, they are the Edmonton Oilers, and just kicking it into high gear with that offensive firepower, and it should be exciting as we get into the home stretch. Let me know down in the comments what you think about the whole Jonathan Toews situation here with the Oilers, and what should the Oilers do even before or at the trade deadline. That is it for today's video. Make sure to subscribe here to Oilers Digest. We will be back with an Oilers Ducks preview tomorrow. Should be an exciting rematch from Sunday afternoon. The Oilers hoping to get revenge. That is it for today. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day. Enjoy the Canada game tonight. Take care. I'm Matt.